Hi there. Welcome to Peppers and Flowers, where sales and marketing doesn't make sense. Please join us for the conversation.
That was so enthusiastic. That was so good.
All right.
Man, I'm jolted right now.
Nice. Who needs caffeine in the morning, right?
I'm on my third cup right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, I just take coffee through the veins,
yeah, I
Okay.
know. I hear you. That's
Man,
awesome.
so I got a fun story I want to tell you, and I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but it's so weird. Okay, as a parent, if no one knows, I have two kids. I have a 2.5-year-old and I have a 5-month-old, I think. So the 4-month-old's Lila and the 2.5-year-old is Alexa. And one of the things that's really hard, at least for myself and my wife, is when we first started having kids, we were thinking, oh man, I can't wait to meet other couples and we could have couple groups and do couple dates and have our kids play and you know that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's actually really hard to find couples who actually want to be your friend, and not only who want to be your friend, but who aren't weird. Don't you?
Right.
Did you have that? It's really hard to find people, and they always are it's the weirdest thing. They're it's really hard to find normal couples who have kids.
Yeah, I think that's especially the kids who are, say toddlers or even infants or whatnot, like at that age, moms and even dads are kind of frazzled, they're so kind of lack of sleep, they're
I
so
was gonna say
busy.
that.
You know what I mean? So no one's really doing well, it's like
No, it's
so,
they're partying every single night, staying up late, and they're just hungover every single day, and they're just
absolutely.
out
It's
of it or
like,
something.
yeah, take college times 10, like the midnight, studying for midterms until 2 a.m. You roll into that class, you're just barely there, take that, multiply it by 10 for parenthood.
It's something. It's just weird. It's so weird. I feel like when I was single, or even with no kids, it was easier to make friends because maybe that opens your. I don't know. Anyways, let me finish my story. So we're always open for meeting new couples, right? I mean, we only have a select few in our super close crew of parents, friends, and stuff like that. But I was in the this has been happening to me a lot lately. I don't know if anyone has had this happen. Please let me know because I'm so curious to know what the heck is going on. It's so weird. Okay. It's almost like there's a zombie apocalypse, but you don't really notice until it gets really, really bad. But you notice the signs why is a guy acting weird over there? Why is this guy just, it's like that. It's like before something
Right.
bad happens, you see all these omens. Anyways, this has happened 5 times, I think. This happened with, let's see, 1 couple, 2, 3. Yeah, this happened 5 times. All right, here's the latest example. This is how it normally goes. I was in the grocery store last week. And I just went in to get a bottle of wine. I wasn't actually shopping. It was late. The kids went to bed, so it was probably around 8 or something. I go in the store, I'm in the section, and I'm kind of just looking around. And I walk past this guy with a child in a stroller, probably a year and a half old or something like that. And he oddly looks, it was funny because he looks like a doppelganger of one of the, I don't remember the celebrity's name, but anyways, he looked like a celebrity or something. He looked like the guy from, what is it? Weezer, the band Weezer. But I know it wasn't him. Yeah, because his name's different. Anyways, I walked by him and I was like, hi, because I always do that. And he was like, hey, how's it going? And I was thinking, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to have a conversation. I said, good. We started chatting, but then I kind of eased into it. And I thought, wow, this guy is actually really cool. So we started talking. He started talking to me. He's like, I really love your energy. And then it started going downhill, right? It started going into, hey, what do you do for business? And I was like, okay, well, I do this, I do that. He's like, great. That's cool. He's like, yeah, I just started my own business. So it always starts with them talking about I just started a new business. And it always has to do with some couple that lives in Orange County that is
Right.
coaching married couples how to retire, because retire early and do some sort of online business,
Right.
which
Work from home and
which by the
yeah.
way is always too complicated to explain.
Yeah, I know.
They
So what do
always
you
have
mean
to go, they
yeah.
always go, yeah, we should meet and see if we have synergy. Like, are you
Oh,
kidding me? Like, I
are
want,
you kidding me? Yeah.
yeah, but it's always like they can't tell you what they do. It's too
Right.
complicated. They always have to explain it over a 40-minute coffee meeting.
Yeah.
Uh, they're trying to like change their life. Their life has already
Yeah.
been changed.
Right.
And it's like they're recruiting you. And if you don't want, if you give any slight kickback, I flat out was like, hey man, I don't really want to be pitched or anything, but I would love to like do park dates or something. Like, can we just,
There you go. Yeah.
and
Let's
I
just be
never,
friends.
and once I do that, I never hear back from him again.
Yeah, honestly, like it's that hidden agenda, that kind of leery hidden agenda that we worry about, and we get leery about, because like people, they wanna kind of be normal and hang out and have fun, but then there's that hidden agenda, and for not everyone, but some people, it's a little bit different or awkward. It's like, it could be someone trying to help me with like life coaching or future success, or
Yeah.
like you said, those kind of those work from home things where it's like, we will build you a website and just click here, and you'll make $10,000 a month, and look at all these people that did it before you, right?
Yeah,
So
but like that, but I know what I'm signing up for.
right.
This is like, this is creepy. Like this is the fifth couple. Well, his wife was not with him, but he was married. But this is the
Hmm.
fifth couple that this has happened exactly, right? Like the other instance was the same thing. We met this couple at one of those luxury uh, movie places, you know.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
met them there and they were super cool. They moved from like Minnesota or something. They just moved here and they're like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're just gonna hang out. And my wife and I were like, wow, they're so cool. Uh,
Hmm.
and we started texting. He's like, yeah, I own my business. I just can't explain what it is. It's too
Hmm.
complicated. But what do you
Hmm.
do? We'll see if we can be like synergetic together, or whatever lingo they were saying.
Hmm.
Um, and when I gave a little kickback, I was like, well, what do you do? He got mad at me and was like, first of all, I run a legitimate business. Okay. So if you're not interested, then stop wasting my time, or something like something weird. And I was like asking if you wanted to go to wine night or something. But I don't know. It's always there's some couple that's retired before 30. They're showing them how to do it.
Hmm.
And it's like they're brainwashed or something. It's just the weirdest thing. And I keep running into these people. And I have no idea. It's weird. But I will admit, the one thing I do hate 100% is if I'm going to be sold on something, I have a low threshold to be sold on. Like, you kind of just have to get me somewhat interested and I'll like be okay with buying.
Right.
But I really hate when like, oh God, there's like certain MLM employees, right? Like 1099s or whatever. They have their own business. Like, it's usually like
Hmm.
financial advisors too. Like, I
Right.
had this
Right.
girl message me on LinkedIn the other day and she's like,
Mhm.
hey, I would love to like do a strategic partnership. And first of all, I love strategic partnerships, right?
Mhm.
It's a two-way street of referrals. We both win. It's great to just build partnerships. And we can talk about that later, because those are really amazing tools to utilize and build relationships and stuff. But she said, you want to do a strategic partnership? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And she goes, when are you available? I said, just give me a call. Like, I'm a little more free today. Just give me a call whenever. I don't really care. And so she gave me a call. We started chatting, and I'm trying to just be really like normal, because I'm not selling any. We're not trying to like sell each other. We're just going to have a conversation about what we can do to help each other. And she started making it really structured, and I knew like, okay, she's doing her sales process on me, right? She's asking certain questions like, well, what are your goals? What do you plan on doing this? How does
Mhm.
that work? I'm like, okay, all right. And then it turned into, so what do you do, Daniel? And I said, well, I do marketing and this, and I offer that, and here's how it works. And it was like under
Mhm.
2 minutes, you already know what I do. And then for her, she didn't explain what she did. I said, but I know what you do. I said, you do like financial literacy and you teach businesses how to save and all that stuff. And she's like, well, it's more complicated
Right.
than that. What we'll have to
Yeah.
do is I'm going to have to go, but we need to schedule another meeting probably next week. It'll take about 40 to 45 minutes, and I'll use that time to explain so you understand exactly what I do. And I knew it. I'm like, okay, she's going to pitch me, so she'll become my financial advisor and teach me how to like save and do taxes right and, you know, save for retirement and stuff. And I
Mhm.
told her, I said, look, I don't want to be pitched or anything. I would love to do a partnership, but I don't want to become like, I don't want to be your client or you be my client type thing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she got mad at me and said, well, this was on the phone. She's like, well, I'm going to go. And when you're more pleasant to deal with, then
Oh,
we can
really?
talk. Yeah.
Okay. When you're more pleasant to deal with. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
Like,
it's the
yeah, I'll
same.
come back to you.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It was like all, all human relationships, like the same thing with bars and stuff. Like when you go out, you tend to be on like your best social behavior, right? Like you're super friendly. You want to meet everyone. I mean, if you're also that kind of person, but like it was like sales or nothing.
Mhm.
And if we just like built a relationship and, you know, kind of like how you and I started doing things, um, that can turn into so much more. And you cut yourself short when you just kind of do this typical, whatever those couples are doing, which I still have no idea. But whenever you do this whole thing, like, yeah, you know, we should meet for this, like this slidey thing, you know, like
Yeah.
let's meet for coffee and like be friends because
Mhm.
they actually want to sell you. Or like the financial advisor, she's like, yeah, we'll do a partnership, but really there's no partnership.
Right.
Like I
Right.
hate that slimy stuff. But if we actually built something, maybe I would have considered it in the future if we built something together.
Yeah. I know it's short-sightedness, you know. I think we tend to, not we all, but you know, those people who are like that, they tend to get short-sighted. They don't they lose focus of the important things, whether in business or life. And you know, these agendas they put forth, it's really trying to accomplish something, but I don't think it's really going to be satisfying in the end. You know, I mean, you know, they think, oh, if I just sign up these 20 clients or whatever, then I can get to my next level or whatever it is. But you know, when you treat people like you're working a factory or something like that, and you're not really truly building relationships, it really, in the end, it hurts you. It hurts. It's just not good for anything. You know, I mean, you think you're building a business, you think you're growing something that's cool, but is it really, is it helping, is it more self-serving, or is it really helping other people, you know? I mean, you know, not that every business is a service business, you know, or you know, a service in a sense of like offering like a customer service thing to people, whether it's sales, marketing, advertising, any kind of service you could think of. But I think at its core, businesses should be offering something to help other people. You know, whether you know, in their life, or just like to take care of a certain need, but just to help people grow in general.
Yeah. And I think even deeper, it's um, offering something that is based off the the population, the person.
Hmm.
It, that's simply visualized as if someone's. It's kind of like if someone's crying in front of you. This is kind of vague, but I think this is a good idea. If someone's upset in front of you in some way, and you had experiences throughout the day leading up to that point, you might assume certain things. And so let's just say you don't ask questions, right? Let's just say you don't do that, or you don't really want to understand why that person's upset. You'll just kind of assume and ask maybe superficial questions. And so they might say like, my dog died or something like that. Let's just,
Hmm.
you go, okay, cool. So based on that information, we're going to do something that helps them in that situation based on the fact that their dog died, right? But
Hmm.
more deep is that's kind of just the current state. Like you don't really know much about the person or maybe like what they were doing previously or maybe when they're not upset, or maybe they don't really cry about when their dog dies too much. So maybe it's something a little more deeper. Maybe it's something different. So building a product around like the actual human behavior, and making things less risky for people in a way. So another visualization.
Say that fast.
Visualization.
Yeah. Say that backwards.
Visualization. Another
Yeah.
visualization is it's like the coffee machine. Actually, it's like the coffee
Yeah.
machine. So it's hey, can you get up and make coffee? No, I really don't want to, because it takes 5 minutes, but it's inconvenient. I don't want to get up and then make it and then wait, and it kind of ruins it. But I could just program it the night before, put a little extra work in before, and then when I wake up, it's already done.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's not really anything about we need to get someone to make coffee for me. It's just I'd rather have it done before I get there. That type of thing.
Yeah, human behavior, right?
Yeah, like more about human behavior, right? Less about the engineering side of things, and more of just like, well, let's actually listen to people. And I think Ford is doing that really well. I don't know much about it, but like Ford did a survey with North America. Okay, don't quote me on this. I kind of heard it through the grapevine, but
Yeah.
they surveyed all of North America, I think. Again, don't quote me, but they found out that they said, if you could have a larger car with the same efficiency as a smaller car, would you prefer a bigger car or a smaller car? It was like 80% of people said they would rather have a larger car. Which makes sense in North America, right? I mean, like, we have bigger areas, bigger streets, and we love SUVs. People absolutely adore them. So
I have one.
yeah, exactly. I do too. And so I don't know the year again, but I think they're going to actually move away from small sedans and only do SUVs, trucks, and vans. So
yeah, that's interesting. So no more Ford Focus, Ford Fiesta, no more of those then, more just
yeah,
like
the Fiesta RS, which is like a super sweet, like, sporty car. Yeah, they're discontinuing that. Again, I don't know where they're at right now or the current news and stuff, but I did hear something about that. But they're basically just transitioning based on what they heard from people.
Well, that's smart. That's that whole user base, you know. It's like understanding your audience, understanding your future customers, you know. And what that is anticipatory. In other words, it's it's forward thinking and trying to anticipate who's going to buy what in the future. And if surveys are going out, especially nationwide, and people are responding in that way, that's huge information, data collection to to respond to it in kind by catering to them at the manufacturing level. So it's like, you know, why put a bunch of Ford Fiestas out there, or Ford Focuses, if you're going to sell 20% of them, you know? And if people are, and also the re-engineering, if people are true to that nature of, I want a bigger car, but I want it to have a small car feel, then not only are they going to produce bigger cars, but they're going to probably remanufacture, re-engineer how they're built, so they drive like a sedan, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think they asked the question correctly.
Yeah.
Like, if I was Ford and we want to answer this question, we would need to find out, not do people want SUVs or bigger cars? It's, why do they buy smaller cars? And probably the reason why people buy smaller cars, in my opinion, is because, well, first of all, they're less expensive. Most of the time, probably people consider smaller cars for commuting. I mean, there's probably a budgetary thing in there too, but probably mostly commuting and efficiency. It's a little cheaper to run it, smaller tanks. But I think really it's the mileage and like the efficiency of it. Like you know, I don't think when people are looking for commuter cars, they're looking to buy like a Dodge truck or something. You know, they're looking for like those Chevrolet battery electric cars, or they're looking for a Kia hybrid or something, you know. So they asked the question correctly. They said, if we could get the same efficiency on a sedan, like a smaller car, would you prefer a larger car, or would you still want a small one? So I think they worded it correctly, because they basically said, we know what you want, but we want to know, like, does the size matter?
Yeah.
And apparently what I found out was the size. It's funny. The size does matter.
Right. Right.
Down.
It's
But
funny. I told you, I think in one episode that I used to sell BMW, and it's funny because when I was selling, it was back in like the early 2000s, and I was in car sales, Highline, BMW here in Orange County, and that's when the X5 just came out. There's the X3 now, X1, but when I was working, the X5 was just introduced to the market, and so they had sedans and things like that. But hey, now BMW has this SUV, right? And the cool thing back then was that not only was it a nice roomy SUV for your family, for your dog to sit in the back or whatever it is, but like it also drove like a sedan. And so when I remember like test driving or getting into one for a customer, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't even feel like a big car. It feels like a small sedan. But so it drove kind of sporty and took turns well, and the acceleration was really good. And I'm like, man, this is a nice car, but it had the roominess, the safety features of a bigger sedan. And so
yeah,
I think, you know what I mean? That's testament to
yeah,
BMW, but also just how what they probably did those user studies back then too.
it's so funny. Building a bigger car that feels like a smaller car.
Yeah.
That's probably a reason why people don't get larger cars. There's probably got to be some, like, if you start your driving career, driving whatever it is, but you start driving, and let's just say you start driving on small cars, and throughout most of your driving time, you only drive small cars. So when you transition into a larger car, it's probably a little daunting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially like going back to the family analogy of moms and dads. When you have some people when they get their first couple of kids or whatever, now they upgrade to the minivan or to the bus.
Yeah, right. But if you go from like a Ford Fusion and then jump into like a Chrysler minivan, that's
Mhm.
probably scary for some people, because they're like, man, that thing is huge. Like, how am I going to park it? I'm going to get stuck in this and that. I mean, like my wife. So my parents I grew up and my parents had a Ford Excursion. So it was like one of the biggest, it was like next to the Suburban. It's one of the biggest, like, what is it? It's not an SUV. It's I guess it is an SUV, right?
Yeah, those are. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a Suburban. It's massive. I learned
Hmm.
how to drive on that thing. And once you drive on that, I mean, you can really drive any, you know, consumer car practically, except for like a semi or something. But we had
Right.
that car, and my wife has never driven it. She's like, no, I'm terrified, because she's only driven small cars.
Hmm.
So she doesn't like, it's almost like this blockage of you. She's like, it's really the same thing. It's just a little bigger, you know?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it's scary for people. So if you go, well, here's big cars, so you can transition up, and when you drive it, you'll find, oh, it feels like my sedan, you
Yeah.
know?
It's convenient. It's like comfortable. It's familiar. Like those are all telltale signs of someone who like is getting something because of what they like and what they're used to. So but the funny thing is like I mean, obviously this is a great discussion, and it talks about the automotive industry, comparing even different manufacturers, and also user experience, and like I think this kind of segues really well into our next discussion today, which is kind of how to best understand leads and prospects, because as we get into lead generation and a lot more marketing aspects of things, I think it'd be nice for our audience today to understand more, like, what goes into lead generation. How do we understand the user base that's out there, our prospects, and how do we cater to their needs? So yeah, I mean, Daniel, you're an expert in marketing, and I wanted to just kind of bring this to the table today. And when you do a lead campaign for a customer of yours, or if you're just kind of scoping out someone to bring on board, and you're doing some type of a discovery meeting with them, so how do you best understand their audience, and then what is your process to then begin to generate leads for them, for their company?
Well, it's rather weird because every company that I deal with, and I'll ask for your expertise in sales in a moment. You can apply this extremely well to what we're doing. But it's weird because every single business is its own unique cocktail. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, it's insane how different each one is. And so as a marketer, you could easily say something like, well, let's just put a system together and cookie cut it for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But you really can't. It's just, I just want to point that out. It's just weird how each business is truly different from one another. And when you dive deep into it with them,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to see that more clear and clear. So it's really unique, and I really find that really intriguing. And a lot of times it's not really about the product or business. It's more about like the people running it. So answer your question. What usually happens is the first thing I need to figure out right off the bat is like what they're currently doing. Okay. And everyone's like, oh, well, of course you have to know what they're doing. Right. But that's really where you find most of the information. And then knowing what to do with that information that they give you, you can go further ahead. So what I find normally is there's two scenarios, well, maybe three, but I'll kind of just list a few. The first scenario is this. There's a company that wants to use lead generation to grow their business because they're at zero, right? So they just started a new business and they want to do lead generation, and they're like, I've saved $2,000 and I want to invest that and do some lead generation. And if I don't make anything back, then it's like, it's a failure. Okay. So normally there's businesses like that. Then there's another type of business where they're not doing anything. They're relying primarily off of organic traffic or referrals, something like that. Then there's a third kind where this is kind of split. The third kind is they're spending a ton of money on marketing or like lead generation efforts, and they're getting very little, if anything, back. Then there's ones that are probably spending so much money that even if they had a poor system and like 0.5 or 0.03% of their traffic converted into customers, they're spending so much and they have somewhat of a good system that the numbers just pan out. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. I always recommend, however you decide to, landing pages do this extraordinarily well. If you have the right person designing it, of course. Some of the major problems, though, is they have too much information put in front of people. So thinking less about, well, let's do a funnel, let's do ads, let's do this, email and send people here and do that. You really just need to kind of take a pause and think more of what can I do to simply explain what I'm trying to get a person to do online. Okay. It's the same thing as, well, you can best describe it in your head when you think about it. And then it gets a little harder when you try to write that plan down or speak the plan. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then beyond that, it's going to be a little harder to like build a landing page with that type of accuracy, from your head to talking about it to like putting it down on paper and then building the system. So like it gets progressively harder for you to kind of keep the same level of precision. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, because there's so many moving parts, and so it's not just like you said earlier, it's not just a cookie cutter. Everyone has to look internally and see how they work, and what is their distinctive compared to other companies, maybe in their industry, and then obviously the audience doesn't really change, but how you approach the audience and how you understand your audience is what's
Yeah,
really
like
important.
I really try to. People get so stuck on competitive edge and competition. Well, you know, this guy's spending so much more than I am. How am I going to get into it, right? And the thing is, you have to stop looking at your competitors, because it's going to prohibit you from moving forward. You're just going to feel stuck. And I would say the best thing to do is look at your competitors, but don't do what they're doing.
Right.
We're kind of going to have to figure out together, and normally this is quite easy, and this just comes from talking about it. But normally it's finding things about the business itself and not going, well, I did a competitive analysis. Competitive analysis is great, and we have a ton of tools to like look at other people's business and see what they're doing, but we don't do it to copy them. We do it to understand, okay, these guys are doing like this. Here's what we probably shouldn't do. Let's try to do it this way. And a really cool way to do that is, which a lot of businesses don't do, and I always try to push this because it works so well. And this is a good way to kind of break out of the cycle of lead generation, which is normally, and people need to understand too, lead generation is about the relationship building. And that's what everything I just explained up to this point, even from the beginning of the podcast, relates to lead generation. Like if these people just decided to invest time and be a friend in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
it could have turned into something more. But things just take time, and people don't want to like nourish relationships and you know stay in contact with a prospect. They don't want to like talk to a prospect for a year and a half to maybe get business.
Yeah.
So there's not like one thing. It's more of like, normally we find answers for all our clients by talking more about them, seeing what they're doing and how we can do things a little differently. And it's really kind of like a big brainstorming session,
Uh-huh.
because they're going to be able to think about things that they never thought about before. So it's really kind of like find your internal voice in a way, but it works really well.
When you ask your clients, like, how do you understand your prospects? How do you reach them? What type of questions do you ask your customers that they could then in turn ask, their audience, right?
Well, see, the thing is, understanding your audience is a lot more complicated than you think, because you're putting people in a cohort and you're thinking like, for example, you're thinking, we did a survey and everyone said this, therefore we should do that. You kind of cut yourself short. And I know I had mentioned that Ford did that, and it's cool that they did and they asked the right question and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't take things literally. You can't take things to like precise with precision, because no matter what, you are still cutting yourself short doing that. And really the main thing that I would say, this is the absolute problem that I face or see in my clients, is there's too much concern of, let me try to explain this right. There's too much concern of we need to get this results. We need to get that. Our competitors are getting, 4 deals a day. We need to get 4 deals a day. They're doing it like this. We need to do it like, it's too much measurement. And there's not enough creativity. There's not enough, there's almost a rejection of if things are too simple.
Okay.
So there's a lack of creativity. There's a lack of creativity. That's really the big lack I'm noticing. because if you look at most business, they're doing the same thing. So they're all doing the same thing. They're all creating an equal environment. There's not much of anyone to make any sense of anything. And
Yeah.
it's all trying to be short term versus long term. And the fact is, lead generation is brutal. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. You need your systems, you need your team, you need your follow-up, you need to build relationships. And it's just, there's no easy way to cut corners around it.
Right.
And most people, I'm finding, just need help with being more creative in their own space and thinking less about what other people are doing. But
Right.
using what other people are doing to make sure that we don't do that.
That's interesting. It's kind of like, I mean, I see lead generation as almost like one of the most important aspects of reaching a customer and then eventually bringing them on board. Because, like, if you think about, your prospects, they're all out there, and for you to target and find that right one that's going to become your customer, it's kind of like taking almost like a laser beam and just pointing it out into the atmosphere and having it land on that exact person that that's going to sign up with you. So out of the millions of people or customers that are out there, this is the one that's going to be your customer, right? So it's kind of like, instead of taking this shotgun approach of just like shooting a bullet and having all the pellets go out there and land on various people, and not having much effect at all. But if you could pinpoint with a laser beam and find out that one prospect that's going to become your customer, and you do a good job with that, then you've done a good job creating a good lead, and it tells you where your next sale is going to be, where you need to pour your efforts into. So it really refines things for companies, helping them to figure out where they need to put their marketing dollars and their energy and their time, and the strategies and so forth that you would come along as Daniel Matthews Media and help them out with, right? So you would help them with the strategy, the creative elements of things, the execution of it, and they would benefit because you've taken what they know to be true, that lead generation is important, but you've given them tools and trades of how to make that possible. And the creative side of things, I think that's where probably some of the listeners out there right now are wondering, like, what does Daniel do that's so creative or so different? And how does he help his customers rather to become more creative? So what are some of those elements, as far as if you want to talk on some of that?
Well, I mentioned one element before, which is the fact of you take a sales process and turn it and flip it and make it a perceived non-sales process. And you can do this a ton of different ways. And one of the most easy ways to comprehend this is you can do a generic sales process, okay? Drive some traffic to some sort of information. The information says, get a free quote, right? Or get a free something, whatever it might be. Then you call these people and say, hey, James, I'm following up because you wanted your free quote. Give me some information. Cool. Here it is. It's going to be $5,000. And then you do the sales process, right? Now, to flip that, this is just one thing, is easily you can stand out from everyone else and simply do this. Don't do free quotes. Don't do free estimates or free consultation or anything like that. You do something that taps in. I mean, it's still free, obviously. People like free stuff, but you tap into their mindset. So most likely, if you're a service, even if you hit a customer that says, yeah, I'm ready, let's do something, there's still a possibility that they won't, right? You might say something, you might mention something in the terms or the contract or whatever it might be, and they go, I don't want to do that, right? So even if you get the perfect client, they can still say no. It's not like they're locked into the decision of yes, per se. But they're probably shopping around too, right? I mean,
Right.
we have to think what most likely these human behavior and humans are doing. They're probably shopping around. They're probably looking for the best reviews, doing all this kind of stuff. So why not help them? Why not tap into that mindset, right? So meet them halfway to where they're already thinking. Don't meet them at an endpoint that hopefully you can get them to. So a way to do that would be, here's a free guide to help your decision, making it easier to find the right plumber. Here's 5 tips on how to do that. Whether they go with you or not. Now, when you call them, go, hey, James, saw you got the free guide. Do you have any questions? Because we know you're looking for a plumber, and we sent you the guide to help you. Do you have any questions about that to make it easier? You see, now we flipped the sales process into a service process, into customer servicing. We talked about this in the last podcast. I'm a huge firm believer of, this is probably the best example I can give. And depending on the business, there's different ideas and ways to implement this general idea I have. But you've now turned it into a service process. Like, the clients, you're already a client of theirs. They're already a client of yours, sorry. And you're servicing them. So your strategy is changing perception of it.
Yeah. That I like the word that you use, mindset, get into the customer's mindset, because wow, that's really neat. Like, hey, I'm going to offer you a free guide, so that you see all the different options that are out there, how my service works for your business. And so when you read that free guide, you're grateful. You're like, man, Daniel just provided this free guide for his business, and it gave me some light on how this service works and how the competitors fare and all that good stuff. And it's like, yeah, when it comes to making the decision, you've now entered that person's mindset, and now they're going to go, of course I'm going to go with Daniel, even if he charges twice as much. He's the one that helped me get this far and offers a good service.
Yeah, like you'll find that people will care less about price and less about all those incentives, like zero down, or we're the cheapest, or we're the best quality. And they'll really care more about the relationship built. They'll really care more about, they'll feel like, oh man, James has got my back. Oh, James is my guy. James is my guy for sure. He's my plumber. You get that sort of thing. So you're able to start something off that produces more of a deep connection relationship off it.
Brilliant, man.
You want that to happen. Final thing I'll mention is you can tweak this, right? This is not just like a cookie cutter solution. It's just the mindset idea I'm trying to push out there. I can't think of anything top of my head necessarily, but you can use this for practically anything. Whatever challenge you're facing, you could follow this process, and it kind of helps you think like this. So the first thing is, what challenge are you having? Okay. What's the subjective and objective answer to that solution? So what's something that's like, well, objectively, first thing we can do is spend more money, or do like simple little money things like that, physical things. And then what's the another solution for that might be, well, let's dig a little deeper. Maybe we assume people that are thinking probably just don't want to do, there's something with the person's perception. Okay. And then you ask, well, what are you willing to do to get another customer? Right. And you don't think in desperation, but you think more of, what creativeness do you have available? What can you do to like go, I think people really want a plumber because they just don't have the time, right? So you dig a little deeper. What am I willing to do to get a new customer? Why don't I can't think of something off the top of my head, but you're able to ask those questions that stump you, and you can kind of figure new things out beyond that. And then how can you implement it? And then regardless of how big or small the answer might seem, like the answer could be something very, very small that you were thinking, I don't think that's going to work. But if you don't try it, you won't know. So you might as well try it, because if it works, great. Like, if you're not making any sales, why don't you just put your prices way up, right? Because if it works, then you're making more money, right? So you just have to think, you just have to be able to don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to do things that might seem too small or not worth doing, because you never know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if it's an idea that we have, it's like, sometimes we discount ourselves thinking, oh, that's just a stray thought. That's just a passing idea. Don't take it too seriously. But I really take the thoughts and ideas that I have very seriously. Like, man, this could change my company. This could change how we do business. It could do a lot. So instead of just discounting them, and not take it seriously, it's good to just jot it down, write down your thoughts, ideas, and try to take them to the next step, and put them
Yeah.
into action.
Just quickly, better explained is you can call any guy up, okay, and you go, hey, I need to get more leads. And they go, cool. Well, all you need to do is make a landing page, run some ads, do this. That's it. Like,
Right.
anyone can say that. Anyone, like even someone who's never done this, listens to this podcast, and they go, yeah, I do
Yeah.
this, do that.
Yeah.
And they go, cool, I can like start a business now. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have the understanding of what you can use those tools for.
Right.
Okay, here's a car. You can drive it. Anyone can drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't drive a car like a Formula One racer can.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't
Mm-hmm.
have the skill or knowledge to put it in place. So all those landing pages and online marketing and all your marketing and sales tools they are
Mm-hmm.
tools that you have to like
Yeah.
know how to use them and
Yeah.
tweak them towards what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
where the
it's true.
disconnect comes
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, and there's a cohesive plan that brings it all together, and I think that's what the mindset is. If the mindset of a customer is like they totally get what they're doing in marketing and in sales, and they have the ability to execute, then they're very complete and they're okay. But if there's something lacking, they're like, yeah, I really get this part of my process, but I think I'm lacking at the initiation stage, or then that's where you and I can plug in and show them, hey, this is how you could do this, in a very fun and creative way that they would remember, and then once they have more of a complete picture, then they can flow and just run business as usual. So I think it is much like building a puzzle, and as we build this thing together, they get a better picture of the whole thing.
yeah, your lead generation should translate into your sales. So whatever perceived, maybe you can touch base on this real quick before we jump off, but they're what you're trying to do is essentially guess at their mindset, then translate that mindset over and meet them there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in your sales process, you both are on the same page of where they're at. You're not trying to make them meet where you're at, which is like a closed deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the customer can sense that, you get better responses.
I love it, man. That's brilliant. I mean, that right there, audience, is worth the whole podcast. I mean, it's that whole concept of putting others before yourself. But for those of you who are married, or if you have children, sometimes we struggle with: do I put my family before myself? Do I serve their breakfast before I dig into my bowl of cereal?
Yeah,
Am
my
I
Wheaties.
am I putting my socks on and they're barely getting up?
I
I mean,
know.
there's all kinds of ways to look at it, but I love it because, there's something magical that happens in a human relationship when you start thinking of the other person first. And that's no different than human relationships in customer service and in business and sales and marketing. It's putting other people first. What are their wants and needs? And then, you do your best to try to meet those. So that's really cool. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Is there any last thing you want to mention about like the sales process behind that? Or because when it comes to lead generation, it's a lot of follow-up. It's instant follow-up. It's consistent. It's a grind. It's not like easy necessarily, but
Mhm.
is there a certain sales process that you have that you work with your clients when they're doing a similar strategy, like they're generating cold leads and they're following up with them?
Mhm.
I guess that was
Oh
my
wait, I'm
question.
sorry, Dan. Was that a question?
Did I ask a question? I'm not sure if that, I don't know if that turned out to be a question. Let me
I was kind of
rephrase.
nodding in
Let me
agreement.
rephrase. When you, James, with your clients, when you consult them in sales and they have this similar situation where they're doing cold lead generation. Let's be more specific. Cold lead generation, right?
Right.
What kind of sales strategy or advice or process, I mean, however you want to explain that, do you,
Yeah. Here I'll draw
with
the
them?
analogy. Go ahead.
That was it. That was my question.
Yeah, I'll try to paint a picture here because like I think graphical sometimes helps people out. Like imagine building a house, right? From now, say you're the builder, right? You have the foundation, and you're going to actually build this house from scratch, right? So of course you're going to get an architect who's going to blueprint it out and everything else, and then you're going to get the various people to put it all together, right? And that process could be very creative. It could be a fun, exciting, very creative process, especially on a custom home. I mean, custom in itself speaks to something that's very unique and creative. And so it's no different in sales. Like when I meet, have my initial, I call it interview meetings with my prospects, or
Yeah.
current customers. What I like to do with them is, instead of looking at the tools that we have, so like in construction, building a house, if I just look at my hammer, my nails, and my stuff, and trying to build this house together, I'm going to go, wow, I have cool hammers. I have cool, I have a cool, I can't even think right now. What are some tools that you use to build a house? A saw. But, I have cool tools in my toolbox, but like, if you don't think more about the person, who's the homeowner and what do they want, you're going to get stuck in just the tools. So I can be, talking about, generating a sales campaign for a customer, doing things like email marketing, Facebook ads, LinkedIn marketing, whatever the, tool is. And I can get so enamored with the tool itself that I lose focus of, well, what are we trying to build? Or what's this campaign going to do? What's the bigger picture? And so, we talked about in the last podcast, my client Vicky's restaurant here, and he wanted to do a car cruise. And I'm thinking, man, let's just focus on that for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and talk about that for a while. What's that all about? Why do you want to do that? And why do you like cars? And is this something that you've been wanting to do for a while? And what's your what's your motivation behind this, right? Get kind of the deeper elements of all this, and the creative side of things, and then start to dig deeper of, well, now which tools would be best to build this? Think about the tools second, not first, and then go, yeah, man, if he wants to do a car cruise, we definitely need to get something to, have cars register and sign up. What's the best way to get that car person or that, homeowner out there to register his or her car? And, oh, he needs a landing page, a nice, cool landing page, with all the details of the form right there. And they have to put the cool graphics of like a car cruise, so they know it's not just a boring landing page, but it's a nice car cruise, right? So we did that for him. He got 100 signups for his very first car cruise. People went to that landing page, they filled it out, and all the rest. And of course, we use social media to drive traffic to the page. And that's just the tools, right? So don't get enamored with the tools in your toolbox, but get enamored at the customer and their vision, and all the tools will fill that to make it happen. So, and once you start doing it that way, the dream gets built, and also the customer is more, satisfied. They have a better experience, and they learn a lot in the process about marketing too, which is very cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Um, I say this too, but I repeat a lot of stuff I say because I really want this to be grinded into people's heads. Like, things don't have to be complicated. You just think about it, right? It's the party analogy. You are going to throw a party, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing you don't want to happen is no one show up. So you kind of will black out in a sense on what you spend, right? So you just care if people show up. And so you'll do everything to try to like subconsciously tell people, hey, we're going to have this, we're going to do that, it's going to be this, come, there's free drink. I mean, you want people to show up. And at that certain instant, it's like you understand what people want, right? They want to leave your house going, that was the best party ever. So for your example with like a landing page and trying to get people to buy more cars and stuff, let's put it this way, like no one, if it's within your restraints to make these decisions, you have the power to do whatever heck you want practically. And so what do most car dealerships do? They post the deal of the week or month or whatever it is and go, hey, we have access inventory. It's only this much and that much down, 0 APR and stuff. But something cool would be, think about it. Like, it's the example I used before with the surfboard shop. So certain surfboard shops will let you borrow their, this is my final thought, by the way, but certain surfboard shops will let you borrow their surfboard for a couple days and use it. And then you bring it back and then they go, what do you think? And you actually use it practically. So it fits in your car, you drive it around. And so let's just say you want to sell more cars. Well, people use cars. So what if you did something instead of putting the best deal out, you put, choose a car you want to drive for 2 days. So now they get to try the car out practically. They don't feel pressured as a sales guy. And then they bring it back and they're probably going to be more prepped and ready to buy. But regardless of however that process works, you have actually did something completely different than everyone else is doing. That's the point. So
yeah, absolutely. I love it.
huh?
How you stand out. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, getting your wife flowers for Valentine's Day or whatever it is. I mean, and it's not just the regular flowers that you know everyone gets or normally gets. It's just a little bit something different. It doesn't have to be, you know, this major, you know, earth-shattering creative, you know, program, but it could be just like a little bit of a tweak, and but all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
it's a little different, you know.
Yeah, do something different for Valentine's Day that's not expected, and you'll get an amazing result from your wife, like, or spouse or whoever it is. So
Absolutely.
same concept.
Sounds good, Daniel. Well, I think that was very fruitful discussion today, and I think people are hopefully getting some wheels turning about how they're going to approach their next marketing campaign. And so, is there anything else on your mind?
No, I would think that was everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, all good.
Well, friends, now that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us today at Peppers and Flowers. We look forward to you joining us again next Saturday. Daniel and James signing off.